Hello and welcome back to this channel. It is Wednesday, hump day. I hope y'all are having a really good week. I know so far I am, okay? As I said last week on Friday, I thought this week in the court filings of It Ends With Never was going to be extremely busy, but it's been quiet, very quiet, strangely quiet. And then Jed Wallace comes in. He has just filed a motion that absolutely just drags Blake Lively, and he used Taylor Swift to do it. You're not gonna want to miss that court filing, which we'll go over. But first, I want to talk about Perez Hilton. I want to talk about someone on X and all over social media spreading some really bad information, some pieces that came out on Justin Baldoni. Go back to Blake Lively's IMDb, and then we're going to talk about Jed and a few other things. It's going to be a juicy one, okay? So grab your emotional support lip gloss. We are going in all things It Ends With Never. You are in frame with Mandy Magnan. Wow, I didn't realize that one of my hairs was literally sticking out like that when I did the intro, so that will be interesting. First, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone that has been following this channel, supporting this channel, and subscribing. Super, super, super amazing. We've just reached over 4,000 subscribers. I cannot believe it. When I started YouTube and decided to go from TikTok on like smaller, shorter content to a long form content and start up in frame, I had like 37 subscribers on YouTube. So to be surpassing 4,000 is like, thank you. I'm so forever grateful for each and every one of you here, truly. And thank you so much to Boss Bitch, okay, for letting everyone know that you can now hype videos. It's a new YouTube feature, so to do it, you just go to the comment section. Where the comment section are, you can swipe, and you have a choice to hype a video. It really helps YouTube push out those videos and helps with the algorithm and helps the content creator. So thank you so much for sharing this, and honestly, if y'all feel like hyping me up sometimes, thank you. I would super, super, super appreciate it. Now, if my voice seems a little raspier than usual, or I'm just talking in a little bit of a different tone, I'm feeling hopefully not too unwell, but the last couple of days, I've been feeling a little tickle, so I'm trying to rest that up. But I just want to say yesterday I had such an amazing day too. For my birthday coming up on September 16th, I chose to go and do like a boudoir photo shoot and celebrate me and how far I've come and choosing to love my body in all of the forms that it represents. And it was just so amazing. So ladies, if you've never done like a boudoir shoot before, you owe it to yourself to capture this moment and capture your beauty. Sometimes when we're staring in the same mirror every single day, we kind of forget that we are magical, beautiful, powerful beings. And sometimes when you see yourself through boudoir lenses, you just get to appreciate yourself so much more, and I just can't wait. The photos are just so gorgeous. And yeah, so that was my whole day yesterday. It was pretty amazing. But you're not here to talk boudoir, are you? You're here to talk It Ends With Us. Congratulations to Perez Hilton, who was in the courts of Nevada yesterday. Of course, we talked about that at length, and he has a win. Kind of. I mean, it was sort of a split. So allegedly the judge was very nice to him, very empathetic and very patient with him. Of course, he was there representing himself pro se, while Blake Lively had, I think, 3 lawyers there fighting for her. It's so absolutely insane that Blake believes that her rights surpass anybody's right to freedom of speech and First Amendment, especially in America. Is crazy that she thinks her rights outweigh anybody else's. And that's just like, I feel like why we're here today. She just thinks that her and her husband can do whatever they want and at no cost because they're these big, rich, powerful Hollywood elites, and they're able to like stomp on the small guy. And Perez kind of got a win. So the judge did ask him to come with a privilege log. So that is a log of all the information that you kind of have to, or all the information that he has from, sources, the articles, things like that. But you redact it, of course, when you show like opposing counsel. So the judge took him in chambers and looked at it and then wanted more, kind of like a more detailed privilege log. But it is up to Blake Lively to pay to have that done. So the judge told him that, you know what, let's just hear it from Perez.
And I view that as a win because her lawyer said in court today, we want this resolved quickly. And I wanted that as well until I found out I can have her pay for all of the work it would take to compile a detailed privilege log, which is what the judge is requesting as the first step. But not even the first step. There is a pre-step before the first step. The pre-step is the judge gave me until Monday to get quotes from 3 forensic experts and paralegals, and the judge will then assess the fairness of those estimates and force Blake Lively to pay for them if she wants this privilege log.
It will be very interesting if Blake Lively still continues to go on with this absolute charade and fishing expedition. And Perez himself has even said, look, even if she spends all of the money and all of the time doing this, which the judge in Nevada told them that this could take a long time. I mean, this might take even longer than when the court trial is. I mean, this could take a very, very long time, and it's not inexpensive. And we'll see if Blake Lively does choose to keep going after Perez Hilton. It's very, very strange because Perez has even said on numerous occasions that even if she does get every single thing she wants, she is still not going to find anything, which is crazy. It's like she doesn't understand that we have our own original opinions and thoughts. And this was supposed to be something that started in August, right? The first 2 weeks of August for the smear campaign. And show me the proof of anything so far. And actually, when Blake Lively came out with her CRD complaint days before Christmas, Perez was on her side. So when did the smear campaign start? And there's text in January, on January 25th, I believe, or somewhere at the end of January, that show that Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel didn't even know how to reach Perez Hilton. So if they didn't know how to reach him in January, they sure as heck weren't reaching him in August. Hello? But congratulations, Perez. I mean, doing this all by yourself and fighting them for not only yourself, but content creators and journalists everywhere. I mean, at some point, Ryan and Blake are going to have to just stop. And now I've talked about this dude before and said how dangerous it is with the misinformation that he's putting out there and how he's twisting all of these things. And he's really getting people riled up. And I think the people he's getting riled up are not okay. And it's really disturbing, the content that he's sharing and the way he's twisting things. And I just want to debunk a few of these things because they're spreading like wildfire. And I think, honestly, number one, he's jealous of Justin Baldoni because Justin Baldoni is everything this man wanted to be. He claims that he is a men's advocate and an anti-misogyny educator. Show me. Where is it? But also, I think that it is a possibility that he is working and has been working alongside Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. Hold that thought. We're having a doggy moment here. Just give me a second. Hi. Okay. Oh, you're so cute. Sometimes she just needs a little extra love. Okay. Anyway, back to this dude. This is some of the things that he's been posting, which is wild. For example, this post. This is super important to call out. So much of Baldoni's online support are accounts that follow many right-wing and misogynistic creators. These are not Baldoni fans, but opportunists seeing an opportunity to harass, bully, and degrade a woman. Okay. Anyway, that's his That's one of the things. Then he talks about things that he has no idea about. So first of all, now he's talking about Justin Baldoni becoming Ryle, and he says, oh, it's so much worse. Baldoni didn't just think Ryle wasn't a bad guy, but that he could make him more likable and tell this story of true love. Shut up. Because if you're an actor, and if you've heard any actor who describes playing a bad guy or a villain or a psychopath or a serial killer, nobody actually thinks they're a bad guy. And to step into roles like that, you can't think of them as a bad guy because they don't think of themselves as bad guys. And to give justice to the character, you're always going to have to follow as the character, your motives, your wants, your whys, and they're all tied into, even in a crazy way, like a serial killer, for example, their motives make sense to them, and nobody out here actually thinks that they're committing evil. Like they already and that's how you have to approach every single role, especially roles that are bad or evil. So the fact that he's even spewing this and knows nothing about character breakdown or acting, to me, is just so disgusting. That was a little while ago, but now let's talk about some of the most recent tweets that I find that are just, first of all, bold-faced lies and absolutely disgusting to try to take this information and spin it this way. And it's this. Weird Creepy is a film director improvising an explicit sex scene with teenagers that the author and screenwriter never wrote. It's the character's 16th birthday. She just got off the school bus, and Justin Baldoni wanted her filmed in a close-up sex scene. This is your hero. They were adults, consenting. Have you not watched any of Isabella Ferrer's interviews? This is absolutely disgusting. They were not teenagers, and they were not underage. And have you watched the movie? It was done so tastefully. This is crazy to even try to say like that they were teenagers. Okay, it's absolutely wild that people actually are saying this and believing this. How many movies have you guys seen that have come from books? How many movies have you guys seen that have sex scenes in them? We're acting like It Ends With Us was this huge pornographic movie. Have you watched the movie? Then he talks about how they spent $9 million on PR, but haven't given cent to no more, which we'll get into. And retweeting things where he's stealing money from domestic violence, which is crazy. So his whole thing is that he looked at the year from 2024, the No More revenue came out, and he put it together that because the film's proceeds said that they would give 1% of the film's proceeds to donate to No More for domestic abuse survivors, but they didn't do that because they didn't have a huge increase. Hello? They haven't got there yet. The movie is still up. Not just because you have your premiere and it does theatrical runs doesn't mean that all of a sudden you get all of the profit. First of all, it takes anywhere from 1 to 3 to 4 years to get that in. You have to talk to all of the distribution. You have to see where it's going to be screened. You have to see if they sold it to Netflix, right? Okay, are they going to sell it to Prime? Is it going to be on Crave? Is it going to go elsewhere? Where else are they doing it? And this is up to Sony, the distribution, to then take all of the proceeds. And there's going to be producers that got back end of that. Blake Lively probably being one of them. So it goes like they have to pay everyone out first. Everyone gets their back end of it. This is absolutely bonkers that he's trying to say that now he's stealing money from domestic violence survivors. Then there's so many kickers. I can go on his page and debunk every single one. But then this is another one. It's been 1 month since Blake Lively's deposition, which she was mocked and ridiculed for delaying and postponing. Meanwhile, in over a month, none of the Wayfair defendants have sat for a deposition. Not a single one has given testimony under oath. And why is that? Because Blake Lively and her counsel have not set dates for depositions. Actually, Wayfair, if you read all of the filings, bro, they gave them tons of dates. They gave them dates. But Blake Lively and her counsel didn't like those dates. Also, they had Jed Wallace's deposition scheduled and canceled it. Blake Lively canceled the depositions. Blake Lively's team hasn't scheduled any of the depositions for the Wayfair people. And then there's this one, and this will be the last one, but they're just so crazy. Like, how is this guy getting away saying these bull-faced lies and taking the truth and twisting them like this on its head? But then there's this one. Justin Baldoni's alter ego, Henny Grace, makes another appearance. It's also the name he uses to check into hotels under. Married men using false names to check into hotels, entirely normal and above board behavior. Yeah, it is, because before married man, you should write famous married man, celebrity married man. I've worked in luxury hotels for like 15 plus years. Every celebrity uses a name to check in. Every single one. And do you know who sets that up for them? They're publicists, not them. But every single celebrity, and he's trying to twist it like, oh, he's using a fake name. He must be going and having an affair and doing this and doing that. Get out and touch grass, bro, because what you're doing is so absolutely insanely wild. The misinformation, the lies, the gaslighting, the manipulation. I mean, everything that you're doing in these tweets is so far-fetched and gross and grotesque. Boy, bye. And the people who believe this man and are delusional enough to buy into his BS, see a therapist. Oh, but the train keeps moving because the crazy doesn't stop there. Oh no, then this article drops, and immediately when I saw it, I was like, you gotta be out of your mind. This is all Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds have now? Is this the horrible PR moves that they're doing? Justin Baldoni lives like a prince amid legal drama, very high opinion of himself, an exclusive. Ooh, an exclusive, Jennifer. Let's see what your exclusive says. It says he's been embroiled in a headline making lawsuits all year, but Justin Baldoni isn't keeping a low profile. He's not? He's not keeping a low profile? All right, did you get Justin Baldoni mixed up with Ryan Reynolds? Okay, it says he's still living his best life and he's doing it without any guilt or shame. A source tells Globe of the It Ends With This actor and director who was accused of sexual harassment in a bombshell lawsuit. Anyway, it keeps going about him and Ryan Reynolds and how Ryan Reynolds was dismissed, etc., etc., etc. Then it says, according to the source, the 41-year-old, who is worth an estimated $6 million, still lives like a prince and enjoys the best things money can buy. He's got his beloved sports cars and custom-tuned Lexuses, and he never misses a workout or spa treatment, says the source. He gets $1,000 haircuts and wears $1,000 shoes like he's totally no big deal. That's wild. This is nuts. It goes on to talk about the pre-trial in February where Brian Freeman told the judge that his clients, Jamie Heath, Steve Soritz, and Justin Baldoni were devastated financially and emotionally by the lawsuit. It's just so weird. And then it says Freedom also alleged that Baldoni had been exiled from polite society and suffered damages totaling hundreds of millions of dollars because of the lawsuit. In newly unsealed text messages from Lively's suit, in which she also accused Baldoni of launching a smear campaign against her, the actor's business partner Heath revealed he had hired $9 million crisis management firm. This is insane. It says, but despite the publicity firestorm that threatens his career, adds the source, the Jane the Virgin star dresses and looks like a guy who holds a very high opinion of himself because he absolutely holds that opinion, says the source. Even after all he's been through, he's not letting anyone change who he is or how he lives. What? And now I would like to play a little game of name your sources, because if Perez Hilton has to name everyone that gave him any information ever on any video he's ever made, whether it was a draft file or not, Miss Jennifer, whoever gave you that information, whoever that source was, come to the front. How about you give us your little source, because I bet that was Leslie Sloan or Ryan Reynolds. I could bet money on it because it's absolutely insane. What would you like the guy to do? Lay over and die? What do you want from him? Oh, sorry, he's still getting haircuts and wearing his shoes that he already has. And what is he supposed to do? And if there's anyone prancing around their fame and their money and their power, it's not the Wayfarer side. That's for sure. Which brings me to this guy, Ryan Reynolds. Yes, one of his movies that he produced is going to be showing at TIFF, which is my city, tomorrow. This is showing and he's all over the place. I mean, doing all of these interviews, doing all of this stuff. And kind of funny here is when they said, right here, where it says Ryan Reynolds makes even the maltiest of hyphenates look lazy. The actor, writer, producer, advertising CEO, football club owner, booze baron, telecom tycoon, and philanthropist has spent the past decade with his finger in every conceivable pie. And that's not including his role as Hollywood husband to Blake Lively and father of 4. We won't even get into his extra familiar legal headaches. No, of course you won't, because you're Canadian and you're too nice and you would never want to step on Ryan Reynolds' toes. Now, I'm really thinking about going down there tomorrow and protesting for Justin Baldoni and getting justice for Justin. Let me know if that's something y'all think I should do or just like let it lie, let it be the moment. I do want to say I am super excited because I went ahead and got me a ticket for Eleanor the Great. It is going to be on opening night on Monday and I'm super excited. So I'm going to be seeing Eleanor the Great at TIFF this year on Monday. I will definitely come back and let y'all know exactly how it was and I will bring lots and lots and lots of Kleenex. On Monday, in my last video, we went over Blake Lively's IMDb and how she has all of her projects updated in January of 2025. And I told y'all that was kind of like making me think, making me wonder why these projects were announced years ago. Some of them 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And yet on IMDb, she had them all updated in January of 2025. And I knew there was a reason. So I went back to Blake Lively's second amended complaint, her second filing. And I just knew, I was like, something is in here that has to do with her working in her IMDb. And just rereading this again, or the portions that I did reread again, man, after knowing everything that you know, the wording is so misleading and it's just bonkers that this is still going on. Even this sentence here where it was like Miss Lively brought this lawsuit because she was one of the women or two that Mr. Baldoni 1,000,000% made uncomfortable. Well, where are the other women? And why are you speaking for them? We've already asked you not to speak for women. But also, is it 1, 2, you don't even know, right? You're just like throwing that up there. And then also this part too, where Miss Lively and anyone else who might speak up. So they're saying that in August, that's why they hired the PR crisis, was because Blake Lively was speaking up about how she experienced SH on set. But that's not why they did it at all. And it says that louder voice amplified by publicists, crisis managers, digital media teams, and lawyers has sought to mislead the public into believing that Miss Lively did not experience sexual harassment by portraying her as a powerful bully who fabricated claims of misconduct in order to seize control of Mr. Baldoni's movie. But yeah, that is like exactly what happened. And you can't persuade me otherwise until I see actual evidence, Blake. Then later in the amended complaint, it says, importantly, none of the requested protections were tied in any ways to Miss Lively's creative input in the film and were made months before any discussions regarding the cut of the film. At that moment in time, with the completion of the film uncertain. Why would the completion of the film be uncertain? That's weird. Why would it be uncertain? Miss Lively did not request, nor did she receive, any creative rights, editing rights, credits, or any other role on the film beyond her role as an actress and executive producer. That is a bold-faced lie. She fought for the PGA credit and got it. That's a lie. Like, it's literally a lie. It's so crazy that they're able to do this. But I want to get to the part to where I think she's lying about her IMDb credits and how much work she's coming up. And that is on page 51. And this is why I think they changed and updated her entire IMDb to make it look like in January of 2025, she had all of those brand new credits, when those credits, in fact, were up to 5 years old. And this is why, so they can say this. The assertion Miss Lively bullied her way into edit room is not only false, but it was not even necessary. If she was not happy with the film, she could have easily just moved on to her next project. She had offers for directing jobs before, during, and since the film. If she wanted to direct, she could have done that at any time and without having to deal with the Wayfair parties, whom she very clearly wanted nothing to do with. The story of the edit of the film is not relevant to Miss Lively's claims of sexual harassment and retaliation, because you have no answers for it, honey. Okay? We see it plain as day. It is a red herring designed to distract the public away from the grave misconduct by the defendants. The Sony cut of the film that was chosen to be released in theaters. Miss Lively led the Sony cut with their support, working in close collaborations with Sony and Colleen Hoover. Anyone in film will tell you that this is not how you do things. The director gets the cut of the film. The distributor does not. And Blake Lively sure as heck knows that because of her and her husband's long-standing career. So to even put this in here is a bold-faced lie. But anyone not in film, like the first dude I showed you, would have no idea how this works. Why do you think the director gets a cut of the film? Why do you think there's extended director cuts? Why? It's their movie. The distributor comes after. You know what I mean? Like, they don't get a cut of the film, and she knew this, and she's lying. And Colleen Hoover should have had nothing to do with the cut of the movie either. And I bet she didn't, because she even said that the days that she was on set, she was only there for like 1 or 2, and she had no idea how movies are made, and da-da-da-da-da-da. It's a lie. And I think because they updated all of her IMDb in January of 2025 to make it look like she has all of this work coming in so that they can write this. But the truth is, she didn't have anything after Another Simple Favor. There was nothing, because all of those projects were up to 5 years old. And a lot of them include work with Sean Levy. Yeah, Sean Levy, you know, the one that's always making movies with her husband. Yeah, he had projects with Blake for 5 years now, and they haven't been made. That should tell you everything that you need to know about working with Blake Lively. But you know who knew you were lying from the start, Blake, with that 17-point list of demand? Do you know who knew you were lying? Justin Baldoni and Wayfair. Because why in January of 2024 is he sending this text to his friends? Why is he telling them that literally you're using this claim, these 17 points of demands, to gain power over the whole production? They knew that you got your way and that you were slowly hijacking the film. But do you know what they thought? Once phase 2 is over, once cameras stop rolling, once she's out of the picture, I can just edit the movie in peace, and we'll do the publicity together, and I'll never have to talk to this monster ever again. But it's funny because you say, Blake, in your own words, you say she could do so at any time. She can go get work at any time, and without having to deal with the Wayfair parties, whom she clearly, very clearly wanted nothing to do with. But then there is literal evidence and proof of you begging the producers, begging to claw your way into that editing room, to get into the editing room, to be with Justin Baldoni while he's editing, even though you say you'll take a back seat, a passenger seat to the edit. You got into that editing room and you locked them out. And then even worse, had them sit in a basement during their own premiere. You are beyond so disgusting to me. And now for a little laugh and a little chuckle and a little giggle, because Jed Wallace has entered the courtroom, okay? And his lawyers are magnificent, okay? And when I tell you, this was hilarious. Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift aren't the only one that can drop Easter eggs. No. Jed Wallace, he picked up a thing or two, and now let's get into it. This is hot off the court docket, just filed moments ago. It is a reply memorandum of law in support of defendant's motion to get dismissed or alternately sever and transfer. So what you gonna do, Judge? What you gonna do here? And we're just gonna look at a little bit and then browse through the rest, because it is quite clever, quite cheeky, and so jokes. They're literally just saying, pretty much just mocking Blake Lively and how frivolous this claim is and how absolutely jokes it is. This is the introduction. Like the seasons, Blake Lively's efforts to retain jurisdiction over Jed Wallace and street relations are ever-changing, from a conspiracy-based theory of jurisdiction asserted in the spring but rejected in the summer, to now, in the fall, a novel theory that Lively had not raised. In her prior complaint, but which is now the primary focus of her argument, specifically that Section 302A of the New York long-arm statute confers jurisdiction. This change is likely explained by Lively's inability to overcome her pleadings and sworn testimony that the two claims against the Wallace defendants sound in defamation, and thus the conspiracy theory of jurisdiction found in Sections 302 A2 and A3 is inapplicable. Her 2-paragraph attempt in a 31-page brief to overcome the defamation exception is hardly a response at all. The colors in autumn are so bright just before they lose it all, and the change of season has not cured the novelty or inapplicability of her A argument. Look at that sentence that I've highlighted for you. The colors in autumn are so bright just before they lose it all. Okay, just keep seeing that sentence, y'all. You are not going to believe what I'm going to show you right now. On the screen is lyrics from Taylor Swift's Red song. Look at what I pointed and highlighted. Like the colors in autumn, so bright just before they lose it all. Like the colors in autumn, so bright just before they lose it all. No way Jed Wallace is... There's no way. There's no way that he is actually trolling Blake Lively with Taylor Swift's lyrics. Like the colors in autumn, so bright just before they lose it all is a Taylor Swift lyric from Red. And then in his answer, he writes, like the colors in autumn are so bright just before they lose it all. Y'all, you gotta tell me if you think this is funny, not funny, if it's a reach, maybe it was an accident, a mistake, or do you really think Jed Wallace is actually trolling Blake Lively with Taylor Swift? I can't believe it. It's obviously from Taylor Swift's lyrics. I just think that was absolutely brilliant. Then they go into the argument of defamation, that a defamation claim is defined in terms of damage to reputation. Thus, New York law considers claims sounding in tort to be defamation claims when those claims seek damages for injury to reputation or where the entire injury complained of by plaintiff flows from the effect of her reputation. These are precisely the claim Lively alleges here, because Lively is saying that she's going for tortious acts and not defamation. She could claim both and da-da-da-da-da. It's a whole thing. Specifically, Lively's claims against the Wallace defendants are founded on her assertion that they engaged in a retaliation campaign that created, seeded, manipulated, and advanced disparaging content about her. This alleged campaign, Lively asserts, caused devastation to her reputation. Further, Lively specifically alleges in her false light and FIHA claims that the Wallace defendants participated in a campaign to discredit and bury her reputationally and publicly made false and misleading disclosures that harmed her reputation. Even Lively's general allegations regarding the actions of unspecified defendants show that she seeks to redress alleged reputational harm caused by false statements. Lively refuses to substantively engage in this argument, ignores her own allegations, and instead relies entirely on her ipse dixit, I didn't say that right, that neither the false light claim nor the FIHA aiding and abetting claim fall under the defamation exception. The ipse dixit, however you say it, that is like, you just have to believe it because I say it is so, even though there's no supporting evidence or facts. It's like, oh, I said it, so it must be true, which is basically Lively's entire claim so far, because no witnesses, no proof, no evidence. Lively also appears to argue that the exception does not apply to FIHA claim because it is based not only on the Wallace defendants' boosting of negative narratives, but also on their provision of advanced and counsel to the Wayfarer party's activity, and asserts does not arguably sound in defamation. Lively misses the point. In its reputational injury, she seeks to redress through her FIHA claim that matters not the precise manner in which the Wallace defendants are alleged to have aided any retaliation campaign. Lively cannot establish jurisdiction, so then they're going again through this whole jurisdiction battle, if it's jurisdiction or not. Lively contends that the phrase through an agent permits the court to exercise jurisdiction over a non-domiciliary, like the Wallace defendants, through the acts of a co-conspirator, but he's saying that that can't be true. It doesn't work that way. Then he's just kind of saying, like, through her conspiracy theory, like, she's stating that there's this huge conspiracy against her, and like all of these people committed this big conspiracy to bury Blake Lively. Is, oh my god, it's just ridiculous. But he's saying that the way she has it rung up doesn't really work that way. Like, they're saying that as a conspiracy to exist over the Wallace defendants, the co-conspirators must have acted in New York as agents under the control of Wallace defendants as their principal. Like Lively, however, alleges the inverse, that the Wallace defendants are the agents of the co-conspirators, but indeed Lively alleges that the co-conspirators hired the Wallace defendants and also controlled the Wallace defendants' activities. They kind of have a point there. It doesn't really work that way. Then again, saying that his transactions of business weren't in New York and he has to be in New York to make the actions in New York. And this is a really good argument, I think, because she's saying, oh, well, we were in New York promoting the film. He must have known that we were all there promoting the film. That was the New York release, even though in her deposition, she didn't know when the date of the premiere was, which is so bizarre. But it says, but even if attribution were possible, none of the co-conspirators actually transacted business in New York. Transacting business means that a party purposefully avails itself to the privilege of conducting activities within the forum state, thus invoking the benefits and protections of its laws. The only transaction Lively specifically points to is the co-conspirators' trip to New York on August 4th to 6th to promote the film, consisting of press appearances and attendance at the film's premiere. But alleged co-conspirators' mere attendance at press events and a premiere activities that arise at most to the solicitation of business do not constitute transacting business. Attendance at a trade show in New York did not constitute transacting business, even though the visit might ultimately work to the defendant's advantage later on. So that's very interesting, and that's a really good argument. Like, they weren't actually doing business while they were there. They were just going to the premiere and media events and stuff like that. It goes on to say that even if attendance at these few events constituted transacting business, Lively's claims against the Wallace defendants do not arise out of those transactions. Lively does not allege that the co-conspirators engaged in any wrongful conduct during these events and fails to even discuss the nexus requirement in her briefing. So that's very interesting, because how could they conduct any bad blood towards her? Now we got bad blood. No, how could they? They were in a freaking basement. Like, I mean, she had her way every step of the way from the beginning of filming in pre-production when Ryan Reynolds was already yelling at Justin Baldoni for fat shaming her all the way to the premiere. It's absolutely insane to think that ever she lost any power and it affected her job, and because she was so severely sexually harassed. Get out of here. They do go into the conspiracy-based theory of jurisdiction, and the defendants explain at length in their motion why Lively still fails to make this showing, including that she does not allege facts showing that the Wallace defendants were aware of overt acts in New York. Lively attempts to show otherwise by pointing to email timestamps, area codes, and Instagram posts, but Lively never alleges that Wallace saw these timestamps or area codes, much less that he understood them to mean anyone was presently in New York. This is also the case with the Instagram post. Lively attempts to connect the Wallace defendants to these posts by boldly alleging that anyone engaged in passive observation of the social media environment would have been aware of those posts. This is not a reasonable inference, but rather pure speculation that fails to satisfy Lively's burden to allege specific facts warranting the interference. Lastly, Lively argues that because the Wallace defendants do not argue they have ever removed themselves from the conspiracy, their alleged involvement in the creation of a website in 2025 somehow constitutes a substantial overt act in New York. First, the Wallace defendants averred that they were not involved in any conspiracy, meaning there was no conspiracy to remove themselves from. Duh! Even if the Wallace defendants were involved in creating the website, Lively admits that it only contained materials filed in a prior lawsuit and thus is not actionable. Statements made in the course of litigation are entitled to absolute privilege. Do you hear that, Blake Lively? Statements made in the course of litigation are entitled to absolute privilege, and even if the website were actionable, there are no allegations that this website or those responsible for its publication had any connection to New York sufficient to trigger 302. To satisfy 302A3, Lively had to allege facts showing the defendant's tortious acts was committed outside New York, the cause of action arose from that act, the tortious act caused an injury to a person or property in New York, the defendant expected or should reasonably have expected that his or her action would have consequences in New York, and the defendant derived substantial revenue from interstate or international commerce. For the reasons discussed above and in the motion, Lively has not alleged any facts from which this court can reasonably infer that the Wallace defendants expected or should have reasonably expected that the act they undertook would have New York consequences. Lively continues to point to the $90,000 the Wallace defendants received from the alleged co-conspirators, but this only shows that the Wallace defendants earned from a single engagement. Wow, must be nice, a single engagement, $90,000, without comparing the amount to the revenue the Wallace defendants derived from in-state, their Texas-based business. Lively has not alleged facts that establish that the Wallace defendants derived substantial revenue from interstate commerce. I think he has her. He says due process is not satisfied. Then he throws in rulings from Lively versus Wayfair, which is wow. He says, as explained, there are no factual allegations supporting the reasonable interference that the Wallace defendants were aware of the alleged co-conspirators' presence in New York, or that they took any acts in furtherance of an alleged conspiracy while in New York. On the contrary, the facts alleged show that the Wallace defendants were blindsided by the alleged co-conspirators' contacts in New York. Thus, because a defendant cannot reasonably anticipate being hailed into a court as a result of contracts that they are unknown to him, the exercise of jurisdiction over the Wallace defendants would not comport with the due process claim. And that's coming straight from Lively versus Wayfair. Okay, that little quote from the judge. And this is where I also think he has her here, because she's going New York, California, this, what's going on here? She wants laws from everywhere. But this is where I think it might be the nail in the coffin here when it comes to Jed Wallace. He says, Lively does not address the most significant relationship test or meaningful contest that under that test either New York or Texas has the most significant relationship to Lively's claims against the Wallace defendants. Nor does she dispute that the laws of those jurisdictions bar her false light claim. Contrary to Lively's contentions that California law does not require her to plead the elements of a defamation claim in connection with her false light claim, that is what federal courts analyzing California false light claims have required. The mere fact that Lively has not alleged a defamation claim against Wallace defendants does not excuse her from pleading the elements of a defamation claim in connection with her false light claim. And for the reasons discussed in the motion, Lively failed to plead those elements. Lively's admission that FIHA does not apply to non-residents employed outside the state where the tortious conduct did not occur in California is fatal. Here, Lively alleges no tortious conduct that occurred in California and instead plainly predicates her claims against the Wallace defendants on purported New York-based overt acts. Additionally, even in assuming the actions of Lively's employers were discriminatory, there was no allegation that the Wallace defendants knew that conduct was discriminatory or for the purposes of retaliation or harassment. Thus, Lively fails to adequately plead a FIHA claim. Because Lively's false light and FIHA claims are fatally infirm, so too is her civil conspiracy claim. And then we just have the chef's kiss conclusion. We note that Lively has retreated not only from her primary conspiracy-based jurisdictional theories, although she puts up a game front, but let me restart. We note that Lively has retreated not only from her primary conspiracy-based jurisdictional theories, although she puts up a game front, but despite repeating verbatim large swaths of her second amended complaint, nowhere mentioned in the previously pleaded winky-faced emoji. Nor... because he was saying there's no way that they knew that they were not Californian because they used the winky face and no New Yorker would use a winky face, okay? Nor has she clarified the post which Lively claims the Wallace defendants must have seen and understood. It depicts Lively under the caption as Blake Lively at Blue Jean Baby, New York Lady, which anyone who has listened to Elton John or watched the movie or seen the play Almost Famous knows it is not New York Lady, but LA Lady, the address Lively used when she sued Jed Wallace in Texas. Close the book. Close. Because she did sue him. And then before he could give his deposition and let her know exactly what he was doing on the case and like prove his case, she withdrew it. Like she does with what? Everything? Subpoenas? It's nuts. But that is like, hello. And then he ends it with, we would concede that the Blue Jean Lady, wherever found, was in fact a seamstress for the band. But with all that, the motion is dismissed, should be granted. So now he's using Elton John lyrics, like the Elton John lyrics from that song. It goes on to say that she's a seamstress. He's basically saying that, like, yeah, she was right about the Elton John lyrics or whatever, but the rest of it is absolutely garbage and frivolous. Like, we can agree that the Blue Jean Lady, wherever she is, was in fact a seamstress with the band. But everything else, everything else is garbage. I mean, he has Elton John in there. He has Taylor Swift in there. But basically, I pretty much think this is a wrap here for Jed Wallace. I mean, hello. It's kind of cuckoo bananas. But I love that he trolled her with Taylor Swift lyrics. Like the colors of autumn, so bright just before they lose it all. And yes, celebrate now, Blake and Ryan, and go on your little TIFF tour and do all of your little promos and do all of your little speeches and da-da-da-da. Get it now, because the house of cards is falling, okay? And sooner than later, y'all are going to be found out publicly, worldwide, and you will be known for the monsters that you truly are. And now there was just one more thing filed today, and this is coming from Kevin Fritz and the Wayfarer people, who are asking for not only this memorandum of law in opposition to Jed Wallace and street relations that Blake Lively filed okay, to not only be permanently sealed, but have attorney eyes only. They say Exhibit A, this is non-public information of a sensitive nature that, if revealed, could put safety and security at risk. He and his representatives have gone to great lengths to protect this information, and it should remain confidential pursuant to the protective order. This exchange, though previously designated confidential, should be designated attorney eyes only pursuant to the paragraph 1B of the protective order, as it includes security measures taken by parties. We ask that the court permanently seal Exhibit A in both the public and non-public filed versions, and further order the entirety of this text exchange be designated attorney eyes only, given that Miss Lively publicly filed these documents and only later requested that the court temporarily seal them based upon her representation that her public filing was inadvertent. This relief is particularly appropriate. Notice how they're not calling for sanctions, they're not asking for this, they're not doing that. They're straight to business, and that just goes to show you who is projecting on who when Blake Lively is coming out being like, oh, they're using it for PR, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing that. You and your counsel are dangerous. You're unethical, you're immoral, and you're dangerous. You've already leaked people's phone numbers, addresses, medical records. I mean, we can go on. Perez Hilton's kids. I mean, there's no lengths that you will not go to. And you can't say, oh, it was an error, it was this, it was this. Your lawyers know better. You know better. And it's just so absolutely, at this point, gross, gross, gross. Every time they say something, I just know, I'm like, they're lying. It's like projection all the time. Crying wolf, right? Everything that Brian Freeman does, everything that Wayfair does, everything that content creators do, everything that anyone does is just like further bullying and part of a smear campaign. Oh my God. Enough already. When the trial is over and you realize at the end of the day, finally, after spending millions and millions and millions of dollars and trying to strip people of their First Amendment rights and trying to strip people of freedom of speech and trying to take other people's rights away because you couldn't stand being liked for 2 weeks, what are you going to do then? What are you and your husband going to do then? Hopefully leave us alone, finally go off somewhere into oblivion for a long time and get yourself some help, because that is what you honestly truly need. And you need God. I hope you find God soon, honestly. Okay, but that's everything. Let me know what you think about Jed's response. I thought it was pretty cheeky and pretty playful, and I think he does have a really good case here. Let me know about everything else going on. If you think I should pop by Ryan Reynolds' movie tomorrow at TIFF with a sign, protect Justin, you know. The shop is open now. I moved it from Etsy to YouTube, so it's open on Shopify. That's exciting. And the membership section is going strong. Dropping another video tonight about quietly quitting and the power in that, as well as tomorrow we are going to go over setting goals, but also the worthiness of that, and then setting it and just working towards it. So please join me in the member section, and yeah, we'll continue there. But thank you so much. I really appreciate y'all being here, and I hope you have the best hump night ever. Thank you. I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.